First of all, I see people in the leadership capacity being the champions, and I think any evaluation initiative has to have a champion, especially if it's coming externally. If there's a mandate to evaluate, often the evaluation is looked at as something that's forced upon. So if somebody internal, especially in a leadership role, is championing the evaluation efforts, I think it just makes for a better evaluation, a higher quality evaluation. And they don't necessarily have to be experts, right? They just have to be the ones that say that this is important and we need to do this and we need to do this and for reasons X, Y, and Z. You need that person in a leadership capacity to say, hey, this is important, and we've done this, at a big bank, one of the big 5 banks. We've done it with a major profession in the finance industry, where we've had very senior people say, hey, this is important, and this is why we need to get it done, and this is what the benefits are of doing this. And I think when the leadership of the organization is on board and sees the importance and articulates the importance, it just makes for a better process. And especially if there's an external evaluator coming in, it makes their job easier to facilitate the evaluation process. Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the things I do upon my official exit is I do have sort of an exit interview with the senior leadership, and that's the one thing I hear constantly was, wow, didn't think it was going to fly at first, or we thought we'd have some problems, but it was time well spent. It was a really worthwhile endeavor, and here's why: because we have data that we didn't have before, or now we understand data that we already had but we couldn't really make sense of, and we're making our decisions and we're really confident in our decisions because we have the data that backs it up, and we actually know how things have worked now, instead of just meeting a mark or looking at a dashboard and seeing a needle at a certain position. You know the how, the whens, the whys now through the evaluation process. And I think it's crucially important, but I don't think they need to have sort of the data management or analysis background. I think everybody uses data in their day-to-day life, and we're just not aware of it sometimes. So I think it's just opening perspective as to what data are important and how we use that data to inform our decision making, how we use that data that's already available in some cases. I mean, school boards collect a lot of data. There's reams of data. Sometimes there's too much data to make sense of. But if we have a plan, we have a focus, we're able to make sense of that. I don't think so. I think it's a factor in capacity in certain places. I know working for a large school board many years ago, we had a research and evaluation department, and we had folks that were schooled and trained in evaluation and took leadership of projects like that. But also post that activity in my career, I've worked with school boards that didn't have that capacity, but had the purpose and had the foresight in a lot of cases to understand that they had a lot of data, they needed to make sense of it, they needed to understand how things were working, and were able to get a little bit of guidance from outside, or use somebody that had a keen sense of working with data, and they were able to make sense of data in an evaluation that helped them. And I think, in every individual situation, things may vary, but I don't think those roles necessarily are at odds with each other, because I think the common goal is the same, or should be the same. And they're going to bring, those two roles, the director and the chair, will bring different perspectives just because of their positions. But I think that perspective, those perspectives can play on each other, can support each other, can help each other in terms of meeting that common goal, that common objective. Okay, so a logic model is really a two-dimensional representation of your plan for how the program or the program evaluation will work. So ideally, every program or initiative you can map out two-dimensionally. It's a drawing, it's a communication piece, and it will account for or show the inputs into the program, so the resources involved with the program, the money, the human resources, things like that. You're really mapping out where you're going. And this is a great communication piece because not everyone has the same vision of where you're going. So it's a really nice communication tool. It's not static. It's always moving and shifting. And in an organization as dynamic as a school board, that's important. So you have to know this is our plan, this is kind of our roadmap, but you need to understand that there might be some deviations along the way, but this is the general structure of what we'll follow. Meeting an outcome early is a good thing, especially if it's a positive outcome, but it's not the end of the road. So we're always talking about, especially, these evaluations are very formative, right? So they're always about continuous improvement. We don't want the evaluation sort of mantra to be summative. We get bad news, we shut something down. That can be, sort of a big outcome of an evaluation, but I don't think that's a healthy one. And when you're talking about strategic planning and continuous improvement, it's always about getting better, getting sharper, getting leaner, whatever road you're on. And I think that's where the logic model comes in, because ideally you've mapped out what resources and what activities have produced or not produced the outcomes in question. And so then you can work your way backwards on the logic model and say, okay, did we not have enough resources? Did we not have the right resources? Or were the activities properly focused? Or the outputs of the activities, are they logically connected to these outcomes, or were we making an assumption? So that's where you can go back to your logic model, to your plan, and sort of trace backwards, use some backwards mapping to say, okay, here's perhaps why we didn't meet that. Can we adjust this? Is there enough time in this cycle to adjust it? Or is this easily adjusted? Or what resources do we need? So I think you can start that conversation by working with your logic model. 100% critical. Like it is, especially in organizations like school boards where you have, the leadership structure of the board is largely separate than the folks in the schools. And communication is key because everyone really needs to be rowing in the same direction, pulling on the same rope. And you don't get that by sort of airmailing in a document and not supporting it. You need to make people understand why we're doing this, how we're doing this, what are the benefits of doing this? Because again, a teacher, and I was one for several years, a teacher can easily just say, you know what, I have 28 kids in this classroom, they're my number one responsibility, and I'm just going to close my door, and this is going to go away. But you need to make sure that teacher understands, no, this is going to help your 28 students. It's going to help the 28 you're going to have next year as well, and the ones after that. So I think a clear communication plan, and the logic model as part of that plan, needs to be in place so everyone understands where you're going, how you're going to get there, but also what are the benefits when you do get there. Let's face it, we all want to know what's in it for us, and the benefits are very important to articulate, and they have to be very tangible benefits. And so whether that's increased outcomes in literacy or numeracy, or whether it's more inclusion of marginalized communities in certain programs, whatever it is, whatever target you picked, they have to see this is where we're going, and when we get there, this is what it's going to look like. Very important. And I think if diversity and inclusion are part of the strategic plan, which they need to be and should be, you're going to have an initiative, an activity, whatever it is, to improve your status right now. And that's the continuous improvement, and that's what you evaluate. So you're getting data that lets you know how you're doing in this particular area. If you're not doing such a great job, then, we can go back again and say, what can we do better, or where did we have a breakdown? But without that data, and without that logic model, and without that evaluation lens, you don't know. You don't know whether you've made a difference, or you don't know whether you've met your target, or you don't know where you've gone wrong. And so I think it's very important to have that all mapped out, but it's also where whatever target you're hitting, whatever target you want to hit, is clearly articulated, so you can go back and say, did we do a good job of this? I think evaluation in general, it's best or most useful, based on my experience working in a school board, working for the Ministry of Ed, and working in the private sector, is if the evaluation model is participatory and empowering. And so we want to get as many people involved as possible who have a stake in the game. And that's, in a school board, that's a lot of people. And so you can do it in a number of ways, through the communication plan, through data collection initiatives, through data management issues or initiatives. You can do it in a number of ways. But when you allow people to participate, the outcomes tend to be better.